episode 314. First proper one of 2015. Wow, gone back in 10 years.
There you go.
2025, welcome to it, 17th of February. Steve, as always, back for another year.
Whew. Fuck.
You're
I'm
back
tired.
at work. You're back at work, that's why you're tired.
I've been back at work for 2 weeks. I'm fucking hell. Oh, and those who might regularly tune in for Friday Night Fun will know that there was no Friday Night Fun this week, as I was actually out in the real world. Ooh. I went to a rock show.
No.
It was a bit more of a show than a rock show, but saw Lorna Shore and Body Snatcher and To the Grave at Metro's Freo, which was quite very good. The one thing from a slightly critical perspective is fuck that style of music must be very hard to mix and balance in that sort of venue, because sometimes the vocals got a little lost in the shuffle with the volume and the heavy of the instruments was great. And I didn't realize how fucking short some deathcore vocalists are. Jesus Christ. The singer from Body Snatcher has this really big, sort of very heavy voice. I saw him between Body Snatcher and Lorna Shore as I was going to try and get a t-shirt, and holy fuck, he looked half my height. I thought it might be funny if I'm going, yo, you're really short. But then I thought, that's probably a dick thing to do. And the vocalist from To the Grave is very short as well. I saw him as I was leaving. I don't think Will Ramos is quite as short, but it was a very good show, except for a couple of parts where trying to make out certain parts of the lyrics was a little harder. But particularly when a place like that gets even more crowded and you're trying to find a good spot and you can't really move and you're stuck behind a fucking big ass pole or pillar. But no, it was. I got home at just after 12, and I went straight from work into the suburb or city of Fremantle, which is where the concert was. I tried going to. I didn't. Well, not tried. I did go to Time Zone. I was like, what arcade games do they've got? They had the new NBA Jam, I can't remember what it was called, but it was turned off.
Okay.
I'm like, what the fuck is the point in that? You fuck faces.
Could be broken.
Hey?
Could be broken. Hence why it's turned off.
It is very possibly. I would imagine that would be quite a popular machine. And I went and had a look at Palace Arcade, which is one of those barcade concepts, which have only just sort of started hitting in Australia in the last 2 to 3 years, because like everywhere else, Australia's always...
Not 2-3 years, but before that, 5 or 6 years.
Actually, yeah, good point. It seems like a lot less longer, A, because of the pandemic shit, and B, because I never leave the house.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, Australia always feels like 10 years behind the times, because I think the barcade thing was kicking in America, 2010?
Yeah, wasn't long after that they came to Australia. Maybe 2 or 3 years
okay.
after that.
Again, I don't leave the house very often. And being out of the house on Friday reminded me why I don't do that very often. Jesus Christ. Palace Arcade had some decent games. Some of the machines were not as awesome quality as you'd hope. But I mean, trying to maintain old arcade games must be fucking rough, particularly the screens on them. Trying to decide whether you go like a flat panel LCD style or just old school CRT and the CRT burn in and all that sort of shit. But they had some decent games there. I just didn't play any. But yes, it was very good. I didn't wake up as sore as I thought I would. But yes, good times.
Excellent.
And it's been a couple of weeks since we've done Game of the Year, so there's a bunch. Like I said before we started recording, you've got at least one picture a little askew. So you've had renovation shit going on?
No, we're still going, yes.
Ongoing?
Will be for probably another
Has
month.
that been fun?
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, it's good.
It's been a laugh a fucking minute.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm getting some quite extensive stuff done, so it's not. They're technically not hard renovations for the builders to do, but they are manually intensive because of what they've got to do to get my area, my property, to be able to do it. So I'm getting one room extended to be basically double the size. That's taking up what was a barbecue area, which is now being basically recreated into the backyard, but that was a big, massive rock that they had to have this little digger, like a guy on a 1.8 ton digger came managed to sneak up the side of the house, and he jackhammered for basically 2 days straight, getting rid of this big rock that was there.
Oh,
So it was a pretty damn big rock. We knew it was there, just didn't know how big it was. It was big. It's about 4.5.
so now you know what listening to my music can be like with basically a jackhammer for 2 days.
It was like 4.5 meters by 4.5 meters by a meter deep at least, and that's
Fuck.
so it's a big rock. So I don't know how.
What the fuck is wrong with Tasmania? Just like having massive fuck off rock deposits under houses.
Well, I don't know how they built the original house in the early 80s. It must have been a big rock from back then. So they just obviously, I don't know, diamond knotted.
They just like put the slab over top of it and was like, this is going to be a patio and where people sit and no one's ever going to look.
No, they obviously.
Are there dead bodies in there? You might have a Tasmania murder house.
No. Yeah. So basically, so that's So Nick poured the big slab of a concrete for a slab for the next for the room to build on top of. So yeah, it'll kick off again this week with some more progress. So probably another month's worth, I think, maybe a bit longer, and it'll hopefully be done. But yeah, that's why some pictures behind me are askew, because they've been.
And there's no point fixing them because it's just going to happen again.
It's going to happen again. The other option I've got was just to take them down, but they're
Well, you've taken one. I can see one leaning against the recliner behind you.
Yeah, so there've been a couple I've taken down because they're glass fronted, whereas those ones behind.
Oh, yeah, good call.
Are not they're what's the word? Canvas. So they're not. If they fall out, they're not going to do any damage to anything. So
yes.
Whereas the other ones I've got are glass. So yeah, don't want them particularly falling. So
no.
So yeah,
I'm surprised you've still got that big one behind the couch there.
Yeah, I might end up taking that one. It's not on the. That's probably the furthest away from the work basically happening that way.
Yep.
So it's probably fairly okay from all the vibration stuff that's been made. So, but the one you can see over my shoulder was on a wall, just there. So it's right on.
Yeah. So right now, right on.
Right on the other side of the wall of when they were jackhammering bricks and stuff away. So yeah. But yeah, that's been my 3 weeks, I guess. Yeah, they started second week of December, so second week of January. So basically 4 weeks as of this week when they come start back again. So they didn't work at all last week while they're waiting for the concrete slab to do its curing thing that it does. So
yes.
So it's basically 4 weeks since they started, but only 3 weeks working on the property, if that makes sense. So yeah, so it's been good. So I'm looking forward to it being finished, of course. Because I'm getting a big room out of it, and that table behind me is going to moved into it. And then I'm getting a dedicated office built for me because I work from home and have done for a while, and will continue to do so. So yeah, so it'll be good. And then I get a new barbecue area, which will be good as well. So lots of stuff happening. Yeah. So
for all that barbecue weather that Tasmania has.
Well, we have good weather in summer, so like everyone.
Yeah, I was just being a dick. It's a little bit different from getting like strings of 35 plus.
Yeah, I mean today we've had barely got to 15 today, and there was forecast of in the high areas, like in the highlands, having snow and stuff. So we've had a weird cold snap, but we had 33 and 34 a couple of days ago, and we got 30 on the weekend. So summer's hot for us.
That's not bad.
Summer's always hot summer's hot in Australia, basically.
Summer's fucking hot in Australia. You go in the middle of that. You go in the middle of Australia. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
It's not just the inland Taipan you need to worry about.
So you've got a lot of games on your list, so let's get through them.
I do, because this, as you said, first podcast back for 2025, so it's our sort of review-ish of what we played that wasn't Game of the Year. And there's been a few weeks since Game of the Year, so there's quite a few things there. I just got myself again.
Yep, just realised. Yep, we'll fix that.
There we go. That's fine. All right, so let's get cracking. A lot of the first half of this list I played on stream during some holiday hangouts. So there will be some elements where some of my thoughts are already kind of known. Void Souls. I was very impressed with the demo. I finally got to the full game in the holidays, and my opinion on it turned around rather significantly, which is a shame.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty neat concept. You having a Souls-like that just uses sort of geometric or just shapes as characters that you're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
There's some interesting lighting concepts, like if there's no light or you can't see around a wall corner, you don't know what's there until you poke your head around the corner, and you can totally get fucked if that happens, which is kind of a pain in the ass. The usage of stamina, which is pretty harsh. There's a real hyper specificity, and particularly in the window for the dash move. And either side of that window is really ineffective. Like during boss fights, if you dash either slightly too early or slightly too late, you're taking damage. It has to be very specific. And the rigidity of the movement, particularly on that dash, makes it really less effective than other games of the form. I can see what the developer was going for, but it doesn't mean it's any less of a pain in the fucking ass and annoyance to play. And there's a real gulf between, particularly in boss fights, damage dealt and damage taken. Like it, even more so than games of this form. And it just it's something that I could probably bash my head against and keep going with it and figure it out. But I really don't want to. So I think the more hardcore, those that are deep into the Souls-like genre will probably get much more enjoyment out of this than I did. I could sit here and keep playing it. Most of the moment-to-moment stuff is relatively fun, but trying to bash my head against it, I got way too many other things to play to just go, no, I'm going to fucking focus on this. Fuck that. So one game that I played on stream, but I really didn't like it on stream, but I played it a little bit off, and I turned my opinion around on it a little bit, was Wild Bastards, which is something of a spiritual successor to Void Bastards.
I was going to ask you if it was a sequel. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it's a specific sequel off the top of my head. I think that it's some of the developers from that first game. I keep seeing it described as a spiritual successor, not necessarily a sequel.
Okay. Yep.
Very similar concept. You pick a pathway in a branching map. You end up getting dropped into different environments. You do some shooting. But those environments are a shitload smaller, and they're much more like combat arenas than they are bigger, sprawling stations that you explore for resources and stuff like that. It reviewed very positively on release. I enjoyed the demo, but when I tried playing it on stream, I think I tried playing it way too much like that classic first-person shooter style, where you're just trying to run around like a fucking maniac and just shoot everything. You can't do that in this.
Yep.
You have to be a hell of a lot more methodical, quite a bit slower, because you get hit hard and the health drops are sort of few and far between. But when you do realize that and you do slow it down and be a bit more methodical and use your abilities a bit more, it does become a lot more enjoyable. I fucking hated it on stream because I was trying to play it too quickly, trying to do too much of that old style. But you do take a lot of damage if you're not really on it, and it gets super annoying. It's, again, one of those things where I could have kept playing it, but there were other things I wanted to focus my attention on more. If, for example, granted it's a fair ways away, but I'm on long service leave again next year. And if I run out of games to play, which, let's face it, that's probably going to be a fairly unlikely situation, but this might be something I'd go back to sort of in that circumstance, because it'd basically be 18 weeks off. But yeah, enjoyable, but you have to go into it with a certain mindset. You can't. There was a bit more free flowing and a bit more free flowing sort of action in Void Bastards. You got away with a hell of a lot more than you do in this. Because the arenas, and it's much more that combat arena focused and a bit more exploratory. Still pretty neat though. This is a game that sort of bums me out a little bit, because Echo Point Nova is the next game, or is the follow-up from Severed Steel, which is a first-person shooter. That's what they do. with a sort of time manipulation mechanic and stuff like that. It was sort of Max Payne, but as a first-person shooter, like with synthwave, and it was great. This is somewhat similar, only very much more movement-based. Like you have a hoverboard and you go real fast on it, and it's sort of open world. Well, not sort of. It very much is open world, but it's very island-based. If you stop moving, you are fucked. So there's that. The combat can seem real brutal if you stop moving and you try and play it like a traditional shooter. But if you're like hoverboarding around, doing a whole lot of movement, making use of the grappling hook you've got, the hoverboard, all of that sort of stuff, then it actually becomes way more enjoyable. The problem becomes is that the goals or objectives that you receive aren't particularly explanatory. I played for like 12 hours before I'd even realized, like, because I went through the Steam discussion, I'm like, there's this been an objective here for fucking like 8 hours. What the hell am I meant to do for it? Went on the boards and I was like, oh, yeah, do this. Okay, cool. Did that. And then I got another one where it's like, oh, you need to use this ability to get this perk or whatever. And I'm like, okay, sure. And the objective took me to a boss fight that I'd already done, and it took a few attempts to do it. And I was like, I'm not fighting this boss again. Went to discussion boards. What am I meant to do here? Like, and I've heard nothing. So the unfortunate part is I didn't want to run through, clean all the islands out, and then have to go back and redo the boss fights because they're not easy. They're very much the sort of the ultimate challenge of the areas that you're in. And you're just bombarded with different enemies and different attacks from all over the place. And it's very much trying to manage all of that in a very confined space. And yeah, again, I could have forced my brain to figure it out and force my way through it. But I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've got a list that's fucking massive. Like, I really enjoyed playing it, but it was really quite disappointing that I never got there. But it is what it is. What are you going to do? Dual joystick shooter. Not a roguelike, though. Kill Knight. Now, has I don't want to say very unique look. It's got a lot of sort of video artifacting and sort of video effects on the graphical style. It is very, very arcade-centric in that you select a level and you progress through the waves of the level exactly the same fashion every time you do it, either trying to max out your score or get to the end of it. If you die, you're fucked. You have to repeat it. That's the kind of roguelite element to it in that it's repeatable, but it's not randomly generated.
Okay.
It is the same thing over and over. So while it's really fun to play moment to moment, once you die and you have to repeat sometimes like 10 minutes worth of what can be quite challenging enemy waves and stuff like that, you just go, fuck this. And you just either, like, the repetition just drags it down. The waves of enemies can be quite interesting in how you actually fight them and your abilities to deal with them and stuff like that. But it's just that real repetition that really got in the way of old arcade games up through the 90s. Like if people have played like a Smash TV or those old style arcade games that just bleed quarters, or not quarters, we don't have them in Australia, but bleed like 50 cents or dollars out of you, it just takes a long time. Perhaps if I'd started playing it earlier, upon release, like closer to release, perhaps if I'd played it in smaller chunks over that period of time, maybe I could have stuck with it more and achieved more. But yeah, no. It's got a really interesting aesthetic, almost to a point of being hyper color, like real contrast heavy. Trying to emphasize that, for lack of a better term, that brutality in combat. I mean, it's called Kill Knight. You are a knight who kills. What it tries to do, it does relatively quite well, but there's a sort of unattainability to some of the ceiling on it to try and progress to the next thing, get the next gun, get the next level, whatever the case may be. So I just dropped it. But again, if you have that interest, I think some procedural generation to it would have really done a number on that repeatability element. Yeah. I talked about this on Game of the Year, that my PC was out of action for about 4 or 5 days, getting the new CPU and all that stuff put in. I played I played almost all of Astrobot in that time. But that was a period of time where I'm like, I don't want to just barge Astrobot. I want to play something else. And I've had Demon Souls sitting there for ages off PlayStation Plus. And I thought, fuck it, let's give it a run. Now, this is the remake of the original Souls-like. This was the first of the Souls games that came out on the PlayStation 3 initially. Structurally, but from my understanding, it's damn near the same as that original game. They've just really prettied up the graphics. Bluepoint does that job really well for Sony. It's very fascinating that you can see some where the boilerplate or those sort of very much those standard elements of the Souls games started here. But it's not like a singular, for lack of a better term, singular path that you can find different distractions off of or whatever. It's very much hub-based.
Yep. Yeah.
You go to a main central hub. That's where you spend your souls to improve yourself, all that sort of stuff. There's a couple of bonfires, but that's about it. It's super fascinating academically, but I didn't stick with it because it was more out of curiosity. I played it for about 3 or 4 hours sitting. And again, that might be something that I'd get to when I'm on long service next year. Who can say? UFO 50 is, in a lot of ways, you could argue one of the best games of last year, just from a sheer value for money perspective. It's 50 games for like $30. They are very NES. They are very, very 8-bit games. I think by now, I think I've tried 4 of the games, but I've got like 5 or 6 hours in UFO 50 because there's kind of an XCOM-like, which I've spent a good couple of hours in, and it's whipped my ass fucking hard. But much like Kill Knight, trying to play each of the 50 games through to completion, because it's that very classic nature, like that very 8-bit nature, you're doing the same. Like if you die and you get a fair way in, fuck, now I'm going to redo it all. Fuck this. I haven't dabbled in a lot of the other games yet because I've been wanting to try and focus on each game in the package. And then I'm just like, nah, fuck it. I don't know. But that XCOM is fucking great. Oh, it's so cool. I just wish I could carry my abilities through to the next day. Into the Emberlands is one of the first early access launches, 1.0 launches of the year. When I bought this, I thought it was like a sort of top-downy, almost Zelda-like, where you go rescue little friends, bring them back to this village, all that sort of stuff. It's not that. It's a fucking point-and-click game.
Oh, okay.
And the movement is so super slow that it really gets in its own way. Like you've got this ember flame, which is represented in the key art as a big fuck off candle. So when you start playing it, here are 3 jobs to do, and they entail going into the Emberlands, finding little villagers who are lost in I can't remember what they call it. It's basically like a big, like dark cloud thing, and then come back, and you have this little ember torch. It ticks down 1 unit every couple of steps, so you're limited in how far you can actually go. Now you'll find other means of adding light to it or adding charges to it as you're out in the environment, finding these little critters and bringing them back. But holy fuck, the movement is so fucking slow. And because it's way more point and click adventure that it's not a true point and click adventure, but everything you do is mouse driven. Like trying to do it with a key, like controller, all it does is bring up a cursor that you click on a fucking square on. And you find like axes and shit, but you click the axe, hit a tree, click the wood to pick it up. The axes have super limited number of uses. And then you charge up the ember fire. Ember Tower. And then it's like, hey, good job. Here's a fucking another list. Almost identical, but there's a few more items to it, and you just need more resources. And I'm like, I did that a few times. I'm like, yep, I'm out. A neat idea. And if people are into that sort of slower style, I think it's going to be I get a bit of a Pikmin vibe off it, thinking about it. Not to the extent, there was a Pikmin like that came out on PC and Xbox a couple of years ago that I really dug. But I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It seems like this does a bit of that, just less puzzly. But I really soured on it pretty quick. Speaking of a game I really soured on, here's another game that came out in one... Bullshit.
Yep. All the games you've listed so far, have you actually finished any of them? I don't think you have.
Nope.
You've dropped them all, haven't you? You've gone...
Dropped them all.
Dropped them all. Okay, interesting.
So, Into the Emberlands was the first of the 2025 games. Was the first of the new games.
Okay, gotcha.
And I started playing that probably the week leading up to Game of the Year. I'd finished Astro at that point, finished Indie, and I wasn't going to finish Dragon Age, which I talked briefly about on Game of the Year, which is why it's not on this list. And I didn't get back to Outlaws, partly because I knew there was a lot left of that. But these are all 2025 games from Into the Emberlands. Runa and the Shaikuru Legacy is technically a 3D platformer that you have no camera control over.
Okay.
And boys, it's rough. I think it's a very small developer, and they're going with sort of that South American cultural element, which is really cool that they're doing that, but fucking hell does it not land. There was no VSync option or anything like that, so I was getting wicked screen tearing. But I think I figured out part of that in that I finally found the option in the NVIDIA app as to what refresh rate to set the fucking thing to actually pick up. Because it was set to like 60 hertz in the NVIDIA app, so anything that was running above that, you'd get wicked tearing. Where now I think I've got the G-Sync part set. But this, like, the platforming does not feel good. It's hyper specific on some of the puzzly elements. It's very jittery in playing it. It just feels sloppy. I had to play it on a Friday show just to go, this is what it is for when I talked about it on here, because I didn't want to just play it for 20 minutes and go, fuck this. But also, I didn't want to play any more of it ever again. Which... Again, the video, and this is part of the problem for me with early access. Like, I'll look at the trailers on the Steam store and go, this looks really promising. I want to play this when it comes out. Buy it. It comes out. I finally play it, and I'm like, oh, fuck this.
Yeah, well, that's part of your problem, isn't it? You shouldn't be buying it.
Well, I mean, look, we've established quite a few times I'm an idiot with my spending habits.
You should wait till it comes out and then look at some videos of it to get a better sense of it before going and buying it. Yeah.
I'm a dum-dum. I like experimenting. Anyway, there we go. Lonely Mountains Snow Riders is the follow-up to Lonely Mountains. I can't remember what the mountain bike game was called, but it's on skis and snow instead of on a mountain bike. And the camera's super weird in that it sits semi-zoomed in and frames the mountain in a way where it's really hard to see the turns that are coming up.
Lonely Mountains Downhill was the other one.
What's that? Oh, Lonely Mountains Downhill, that's the one. So you're on skis this time instead of a mountain bike, trying to get down a hill in the fastest time possible with the least number of stacks possible. I did a couple of trails on the first mountain. I'm like, yeah, this is neat. It's fun enough. But no, I've just found myself bouncing off, in particular the last 8 weeks or so, I'm bouncing off games super hard. Except Call of Duty. Call of Duty is one of the few things I have continued to play. And Helldivers 2 I've continued to play, but the PlayStation Network outage that happened, I think, knocked the connectivity on that, because I used to have mad network issues playing that with a mate, which there was some crossplay issues before I got the computer done. I don't know if this is a function of the game being better after the fact or whatever, but we didn't have connection issues until that PlayStation Network outage, and then we just had them constantly. So I was like, fuck. But I bounced off this. It's pretty neat, but my issues with the camera it really bothers me that you're trying to get me to go down this mountain as fast as possible, yet you're not letting me see much of what's coming until the very last second. So get fucked. One of three big DLCs that came out for older games in 2024 was Dredge the Iron Rig. And I finally played it. And I played it in damn near 2 sittings, one of which I actually streamed and recorded. Hey, remember how dope Dredge is?
More Dredge.
The Iron Rig's fucking dope. It's just more fish, more aberrations that you're finding. There is a corporate sort of dipshit that you're kind of wanting to tell to go fuck himself. But it is more Dredge. There's upgrades to the different fishing equipment and stuff like that. If you wanted to, there's a mechanic where, because of the iron rig drilling, trying to get oil spills happen. You get a net that you can use to clean up said oil spills, which you can use as a resource. And if you like cleaning shit, boy howdy, you could go nuts on this. I dabbled in the Warhammer 40k bolt gun DLC briefly, but that just reminded me that game is really quite straightforward. I saw not exactly bounced. I might go back to it, and I've still got the Remnant 2 DLC from last year that I want to play, but yeah, I haven't gone back to that as yet. But Dredge, still fucking dope. Oh my god. I'll be honest, I'm kind of glad I didn't play this in the this next game in the holidays, because if I had, I might have lost so much fucking time. It's not even funny. It's called Node Buster. It is. It's not quite. You can't really play it idly until you get to very near the end, like the last 20% kind of the game's progression. It's kind of an incremental game. Well, it's not kind of. It is an incremental game, but it's not a clicker. So Node Buster is a game where you will see, much like in this Kia, you get a bunch of red squares that come up on the screen. You, using the mouse, control like a square reticule, and every so often it'll flash or like do an attack that blows up the nodes. And the nodes get stronger, wave after a while. You're picking up resources to improve. There are other colored blocks that come along that you can use for more upgrades. But holy shit, I damn near played. I 100%. I got all of the achievements in about 5 hours, and that was damn near 5 hours straight. It was last week, because when we didn't do the podcast, I did a Sunday video, and I was intending to look at a bunch of demos. I looked at one. I'm like, oh, Node Buster. I've been meaning to check this out for fucking ages. That was the last 2.5 hours of that video. And then another 2.5 hours to fucking wrap things up. And there were 2 challenges left that I didn't do, which weren't tied. They didn't have achievements tied to them. So I just thought, all right, fuck it. I've got lasers that are blowing up now. I'm just going to let it run. And it was still going 15, 20 minutes later after I had lunch. I'm like, this thing's fucking cool as shit. If you like those incremental games, it does, like I said, it's not necessary. It's not a clicker. The only thing you're really doing is moving the mouse to pick up the resources that are dropped. And after a while, particularly once you get the lasers and the lasers explode, if you are over squares and do the explosion, that will drain your health as well as damage them. So after a while, even moving anywhere near them, you're going to fucking die. So I just sat there for letting it run for 20 minutes, and it's fucking cool as shit. This surprise dropped during the break, towards the end of it, on the 23rd of January. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. I know where it came from. There was that Xbox Developer Direct where they looked at Doom, and Doom looks fucking cool. Oh, God, Doom looks great. South of Heaven. There was a third game I can't remember, and a surprise mystery 4th game. The mystery 4th game being Ninja Gaiden 4, which that looks pretty cool. Platinum's doing some stuff on that. And then they said, hey, we're dropping Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. Fortunately, it's on Game Pass, because if you paid $75 for this, I feel bad for you. It looks really nice. It looks fantastic. It's running on UE. I think UE5. I don't know if it's one of the more advanced ones. But holy shit, the camera is fucked. They did this massive graphical overpass on it, but barely touched the gameplay at all. So it still plays controls and everything like the original Ninja Gaiden 2. So trying to fight the camera as well as the enemies. Ugh! I played a level or two and sort of bounced just because the fucking fighting the camera. But everything if the camera was reworked and done better, this would be a really, really cool remake. But they didn't, so you kind of have to know going in that the camera is fucked. Well, if you appreciate that, you're okay. The last game. If you've ever seen South Park where the World of Warcraft episode and Butters says, I play Hello Kitty Island Adventure, it turns out that the Hello Kitty IP owners made a game called Hello Kitty Island Adventure. It was on Apple Arcade for a while. As people watching the video, July 28th, 2023 is when it came out on Apple Arcade. And then they released it on consoles. It's not out on the PlayStation consoles as yet. Q1 it says, but it came out on PC and Switch. Very colorful, very nice and cute. I didn't realize Hello Kitty was a girl. So that's something I learned. The music's fantastic, but you have no camera control, which a lot of reviews compared this to Animal Crossing New Horizons on the Switch. You couldn't really control the camera in that, but it was much more wide open, a bit more zoomed out, and you could see a bit more things. This is very sort of busy on screen, but it's also very much fetch questy. The movement's fairly slow, and at least in the first hour and a half, you don't really do anything other than run around, give presents to the friends you made on the island, which you end up on the island because Hello Kitty goes to make strawberry cakes in the oven on the plane and fucks it up, and the plane goes down because the oven starts shitting itself. So Hello Kitty nearly caused a 9/11. But there isn't for lack of a better term, the maintenance elements of Animal Crossing, the cutting down trees, the digging up holes, all that sort of stuff. So I found it very boring after a while. It was cool, but goddamn, the pace and the repetitive nature, I ended up refunding it. Because I'm just like, this is so super boring, and I'm losing interest so quickly because of how slow this thing is and how gated the progression is. The other part of it, while it's quite big and it has a lot of content, it's $60 for a phone port. That feels like a real kick in the dick. And then I'm the idiot who bought the package that had the additional $30 DLC bundle on top of it. So I paid $90 for it. And I got $60 back. You have to know going in that despite the comparisons to Animal Crossing in reviews, it is not Animal Crossing, at least in those early instances. You go in and put shit down in the house. That's the closest you get to it. I wanted to cut down trees and all that sort of stuff. It made me sad. And that's it. That is the last 8 weeks. Not Game of the Year related.
Yeah, it's interesting that like you've gone through a lot of games, like maybe a dozen or so games there, and you bounced off maybe all of them. Maybe was there one you stuck with it all to the completion, or to a?
Dredge I finished. Node Buster I finished.
But there, no DLC for one of them, an actual release for the other one, but everything else was, interesting. That's unusual for you to bounce off games that frequently.
I'm trying to, particularly taking into account my Steam year in review, where it was 350 games that I played. And, some of the thinking about Game of the Year a little bit and that volume and stuff like that, I'm like, I need to be more judicious in what I buy and what I spend time playing. And trying not to cover so much as possible. And the other part of it is, as well, my mate from work, we basically play Call of Duty or Helldivers almost every night. But yeah, I've been thinking it's really weird just how much I'm bouncing off and letting myself bounce off and stop playing these games. Which is something I kind of want to do a bit more of this year rather than forcing myself to finish things that I think are all right or pretty good, but might not be awesome. because there's so many other games to actually play and focus on. Like, I still want to get to Sniper Elite, Resistance, Citizen Sleeper 2, and there's quite a few games that have come out this year that I haven't touched yet already. I think there's about 5 or 6 games that I've grabbed that I haven't touched yet, plus a game about digging a hole, which I really want to get to that at some point. And fucking Avowed's out this week. Shit!
Yeah, there's no games there for most of this year for me. I'm not. Nothing's gonna. Yeah.
I have played quite a few demos as well on the Friday. On last night's or Saturday night, stream I did. I played a lot of the demos that I was wanting to catch up on, and there was some really cool stuff in there too. I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be good when it comes out.
Yeah, 2 of my games are demos that I played.
Yeah, I saw one. I'm like, wait, I've got this on my wish list, and then I forgot I had a demo. But yeah, that's been the last 8 or so weeks of non-game of the year stuff. And that's one of the things where, I want to try not to just force myself to play things I'm not quite digging just to talk about them on here or just to say I finished them.
God Christ, don't play games just so you can talk about it or do a video of them. God.
I will play a game if, because I'm interested in it. That's the initial reason, but it also helps to, I'm a dum-dum.
Yeah, you're not.
Let's put it that way.
You just got a different focus on games than I do. I couldn't think of anything worse than to play a game just so I can talk about it on here or to have content on. No.
I also don't have a lot going on outside.
If I don't like a game, I'm just not going to play it. so yeah.
And half of them I don't know. I don't like them. Like Hello Kitty reviewed quite well. Ninja Gaiden reviewed really quite well. The Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. It's just going in. It's like, all right, I could keep playing this, but why? Well, I like it well enough, but there's other things I want to focus on.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
And it ends up sometimes just being fucking let's play. Like on Saturday, I literally spent 7 to 8 hours playing Call of Duty with my mate from work. Right, the first session only ended because fucking Call of Duty froze and I had to restart the computer. Which has been doing a lot since season 2, but that's the first time and it took 4 hours for that to happen. The Terminator event started like 4 days ago. Finished that. There was a 3 or 4 day event. I finished that in 2 hours. I was like, fuck. I started to become the sweaty pricks we shit talk. But anyway, what have you been doing? Because I know there's one game of yours that I'm very interested in.
Alrighty.
So it's the game of the year for 2024.
That game is still there. We'll be there for a while. So moving on. So the first one is another demo this game is out in sometime this year in theory. This is Lose.
I think I've got that on my wish list too.
Lose Lagoon.
I do.
This is a third person. I guess you call it action adventure. So it's a very, very short demo, but I think it gives a decent idea of what the game is going to be like. So it's interesting. I think it's being a demo. I'm assuming that when the full release comes out this year sometime, that there'll be bit more polish put on it, because they had this really, really beautifully narrated intro scene to set up the whole thing. Then the very first time they sort of have a cut scene with a character playing, they do the cartoon voice where they go, you could have just kept that going, but anyway, hopefully that's just the demo that they haven't done all the outboard.
I'm curious if that's maybe a production.
That's what I mean. I'm guessing
budget thing where
I'm hoping it's just the demo was just cut short to not worry about all that stuff. That'll come in later, sort of thing, when they've got.
Or they may not be able to fully voice it all.
Maybe not they do, but yeah.
I mean, the Steam page, it looks really nice. How does it run?
So it runs really well. So give you a idea before we jump into that. So the game, basically, you're playing a character I don't even think you're ever named, if I recall. I don't think you're named in it at all.
Traverse the vibrant Limbo archipelago in search of your Uncle Lou.
Yeah, so let me explain it, please. So you're playing is this character on screen in the art cover right here. I don't think they've got a name. If they did, I missed it. And you're basically running around. Even these are not current version of the screenshots either. how it looks now. Let me see if I can find one that doesn't really show. None of them show off what I want to show. So you've basically run around as that character, that one there, and you've got this like vacuum cleaner kind of thing that can, instead of rather than picking up environmental pieces like bits of wood and stuff, you demineralize it into this machine. Then we want to make something, you reverse it out and it makes it. And it makes, that's how. So it's, I don't know when it's set, but it's obviously set in the future of some period of time, because you've got technology that doesn't exist now, obviously. So if you want to say, for example, there's the opening thing is you can see that sort of seaplane to the right of that screenshot there. That gets damaged in this big storm that hits the island before you arrive there. You're actually on a boat that gets damaged on the way to the island. And then you get there to find that your uncle, has buggered off. He went off before the storm or something. And people are worried about him. You're basically tasked with at some point finding him or getting to find him. But they basically said the first part of what we need to do is get the delivery service up and running. So you're basically running a mail delivery service using this seaplane. So the first part of the mission has you, the first part of the game, the demo has you finding the bits to repair it. And you're needing driftwood, scrap, and a propeller. So to get the propeller, to go through a little side mission to get access to it and get it. But to fix things or to make things, you walk up, hold right trigger on the controller, and the material basically breaks apart and then gets sucked into your machine. Then when you need to use it again, you press left trigger and basically spits it out. So if you come up to like a staircase that's broken that needs driftwood, you've gone right trigger to pull it in, you go left trigger to spit it out, and the bridge gets made. So you've rather than walking up and doing a hammer animation to make it, it just magically makes it out of this machine that you've got hold of.
It seems very Luma Islandy.
It does. No, it's not Luma Island at all. I mean, it's Luma Island in the way in that you're accessing materials on the environment,
just dropping shit onto it rather than.
But there's no direct impact. Like when it says go and find 20 driftwood, by the time I finished the demo, I had like over 200 of these damn things. So they're freaking
hell.
They're everywhere, and they respawn because it's driftwood. I guess the story is that they'll drift back back onto the beach, wherever you find them. So it was just everywhere. So I don't think finding materials is going to be hard.
I really like the look of it.
The look is really, really neat. There's some pretty neat little characters in it that are relatively. The demo went for less than an hour, probably, if not less than.
Shit.
It was really, really short. In fact, let me just quickly check how long I did play it for, because as I said, it was incredibly. I've removed it from my game, so I've already uninstalled the demo. But so I think it's neat. I put it onto my wish list. I think it's going to be neat. The screenshots here, the layout, the HUD is different to what it is in the game now, but
seems to be an older version of the build. Yeah, maybe.
So, but in terms of what you're doing, I think there is one scene in that screenshot we had where you're flying, which was that one there.
I was going to ask you about the flying.
So the very end bit of the demo has you flying to a different island, and you control the plane. So does appear to be that your main thing you're going to be doing is delivering parcels to other parts of this greater archipelago of islands.
Archipelago sort of area,
yeah. There's no, from what in the demo at least, because when the minute they landed, quote unquote, the demo finished.
Yep.
So, so
how did it feel flying the plane?
It was all fine. Yeah, it was nothing like your head up and down, bit of yaw and that.
But it was like relatively tight. Felt good to fly.
Yeah, it was relatively
good
enough, I think, for what this game will be having you do. I don't know whether there's going to be a if landing is going to be a thing. I just pressed it just had hold X to land and it just landed, and then the demo ended. So whether there's going to be more to that ultimately, I don't know. Whether there's actually going to be actual landing that you got to do and you got to get it right, I doubt they'll have that. I think you'll just have a button that says you can land at this spot now. But it did have like a runway written, like laid out in front of me, so I kind of thought I was going to actually have to land it. But yeah, I just pushed a button and it said land and that was then.
Wonder if they do something where they have an option to to do either simple landing or
don't know,
mechanical landing.
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, the thing that drew me into it when I started, when I saw it on something, was the art style looks really, really colourful, looks really neat. It does remind me of Haze Light. A couple of years back, I played that sort of puzzle demo game from a couple of years back. It looks similar to that in terms of how you play it.
Mm.
Not too sure how much puzzle mechanics are going to be in this, other than like
Well, one of the screenshots looked like a dungeon sort of thing.
yeah, like that first one might have you going through some sort of puzzle kind of thing. The only sort of mission I had was you've got this machine I said that can sort of take materials from the environment and puts them in your inventory, quote unquote. Not that you've got an inventory to access and do stuff with. You just pick up the items if you need it. You reuse them basically. There's not doesn't seem anything more than that.
So not like a bag like in Luma Island or
No,
that sort of particularly I Am Future.
There's nothing. Nothing.
No? Okay.
No, there's no inventory that I was told to access as part of the demo at least.
Could be good. Could be bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as I said, the first one had you like I said, you're trying to repair this boat. And one of the side missions I needed to complete that side mission to be able to get access to the propeller was to these two little characters that had been separated in the storm, and I needed to swim across this other island that wasn't that far away. I could see the island like in the distance. Swim across and repaired the little dude's boat that he had. Now that needed driftwood, and I had shitloads of it, so that was no problem. So I made the boat, and that was just point at it, left trigger, it just builds. That's it. There's no sort of we'll walk up and press sort of anything. It just happens. And then that sort of thing cut to thank you, you did your thing, thank you, and I went back across, and everything was okay. So I did that little side mission. That got me access to the propeller. Then walked up, pressed right trigger to grab the propeller, which just basically shrinks into the machine you're carrying. Walk up to the boat, left trigger to reverse that process, put it on the back on the seaplane, and then that's that little side mission done. But in the meantime, you're basically everything around the environment you can pick up. There are some things that you can't get in the demo, so I'm going to guess at some point that you'll be able to upgrade that machine you're carrying to be more powerful and stuff like that, to pull in more resources that are going to be needed for future stuff you've got to do. So I'm intrigued by it because I think it's got a lot of potential. I just got a funny feeling it's going to be quite simple to play. I don't think
that's what I was going to ask you. It seems very simplified.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like if there's no puzzle mechanics like there are in Luma Island to a degree with those little things you can reveal and walk across and light up and stuff like that. Not that they're particularly tricky. But yeah, I'm not too sure it's going to have. It has the potential to be quite a simple puzzle-based stuff that, like, okay, go get 10 of these and you can build this thing and that's the end of that side quest. Okay, that's not particularly tricky. There was one where I had to go and collect 10 tops of this fruit and 10 tops of this fruit. Again, he's walking up, using the machine to get the materials and then walking up to the character. There was a crafting thing. There was like a cooking thing that I did to complete that side mission. And that was just walk up to it and you know the recipe. As long as you've got the ingredients, you press the button, it makes it. So again, I think it has the potential to be good, but I think it's also got the potential to be quite simplistic in what it does. And that might just be okay. I don't know until we've got a more fleshed out experience of it. But I think the big draw for me, and it sounded like it was for you, is just the look of it. Really neat.
Yeah,
it looks really neat. So
I get a bit of Caravan Sandwich vibe from it too.
A little bit, yeah. I could see where you're coming from. Like, there's a bit of that in terms of his look as well. It's also
instead of a van, you've got a plane.
Yeah,
you're picking up shit in the environment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that game's way more story driven than what I think this has looks like it's going to be. Not saying it won't be, but I think I can see where you could sit there coming from. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what that's like when it comes out. So as I said, I've wishlisted it now to see I'll keep an eye on it. No date yet, but sometime this year in theory. So we'll see how it goes. The second of my 3 demo games, the third one's actually not on IGDB. I'll talk about that in a moment.
Oh.
Is Mini City Mayhem. This is a very interesting little city builder of sorts that is. I think it's probably something we should probably do a check out of actually if it does come out. It's actually out in like less than a month, so haven't got a long way to wait.
It's out in like a day or two.
No, it's out on the 10th of April.
17th.
17th. That was the other one. What was? It's another game.
17th of February.
10th of February. So it's out in a little while. So we'll probably do a check out of this. I think it's really, really neat. So let's just come in and... Okay, that's probably better.
Because I've got this on my wish list as well.
So this is really neat. I only sort of came across this a little earlier today and just, there's a demo of it and grabbed it. So you're basically building... When you're building the city, you're placing down... Actually, where's the previous one? So to the bottom here, you've got on the screenshot we've got here, you've got different shaped buildings and also different coloured buildings. So by putting down a building, you gain residents. You also gain money from it, like a passive money from it. If you put a building of the same colour next to each other, you get bonuses from doing that. Not a lot, but you do get some bonus in terms of the people you get and the money you earn. You can also build. You can also put things on top of other buildings of the same shape and get the same sort of bonus from it. More people and more money as well. But also you can see that second one from the right, which is this sort of red one here. That would give you 25 people, but it's got a limitation of you must put it on top of a building that's already 3 levels high and the same shape.
Oh.
So you've got it's a fair bit of puzzle elements to it. So, and down the side here you can see there's these character little portraits. They give you buffs as you go along. So they might say earn more money from if you place buildings of the same colour next to each other, you'll get more benefit, more extra money from that and money and stuff from that. There are a couple of modes in the demo. The one I played was the sandbox mode. There's no the other one is there's a time-based one, so you've got to do it in a certain number of time. This one doesn't have that, but it does have. You can see there in the blue meter second from right on the top there. You've got the 488.8 by 53. Yeah, so you've got this population versus capacity issue, and if you get them out of whack, buildings start becoming slums because people don't want to live there or something.
Fuck.
And that becomes an end state. So the very first time I played it, I got it to a point where the game just ended because I failed it, and it failed it because I wasn't keeping up with those metrics at the top there properly. And the second one I was able to complete it and get it okay, and the goal was to build this monument, which happened to be in the screenshot here is Statue of Liberty kind of statue. I think this thing in the bottom right is your goal. Once you get that to 100%, you can then build the monument, and then you've completed the mission, so to speak.
Like a progression meter type thing.
So it's really kind of interesting how you've got it. You can see all the different colours in here. So
do you get with Islanders and games of that type where you put similar buildings next to each other, you mentioned like the bonus point, that is it kind of that with a bit of SimCity, and it almost looks Tetris-y a little bit too.
So the shapes of each of the buildings are all different. So the first one, so on the cover right here, we've got a little like a grey square. That's a road, so you can build a road.
Yep.
This one's a 1-story building. The second one was just a 1-block building, but because it's got that
requirement
icon to the top left of it, that's got a limit. You can't build that on the ground. You've got to build that up on top of an existing building of a certain level. This one is a building that can be on the ground, and it must be on the ground because it's got this icon here. It says on the ground, and it's that shape. This one here can be on the ground or it can be put on top of an existing building of the same shape. So there's all this mix and matching that you're doing when you're playing the game from a strategic point of view, where you build stuff. And because you've got these,
there's a layer of depth and complexity I wasn't expecting here.
Yeah, and neither was I when I played it. I thought this was just going to be a fairly cozy,
just a neat, cute little city builder.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought it was.
That's kind of what I thought too.
I think
I'm scared.
And I think it's actually still pretty neat though, because I think if there was a mode that was a true no pressure, no end state, could be no fail state, I think it could be quite an interesting game to get into, to get your head round how to do it. You've got an incredibly small place, that's all you've got to play on.
Yeah.
You can play out a little bit to when you've got that, and you can build across the river, and you can go up, but that's it. You can't build more land to build on. So that each scenario is very much restricted to the space you've been given allocated to. I did find it very neat though, and you also get along the way. Don't know what triggered these. I wasn't paying attention to what triggered them, but you'll get like extra cards that pop up that say, okay, you can build a market or you can build a bank, and they give you bonuses along with it. And they'll take up a lot of space. So there's warehouse that took up like 3x6 squares, which is quite a lot of space. When you're looking at this kind of a real estate of being only 100 squares at total, if you put down a building that takes up 18 of it, you've lost a lot of space. And sometimes you can't build on top of those buildings either. They are what they are.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
How restrictive are those special buildings? Because like there was Panorama where you could put down buildings like that, but if you put like say a forest, like a forestry logging type building down, but if you put a house next to it, you'd actually lose points. Does it have much of a restriction push-pull like that?
I didn't see a lot of that. So
okay.
I don't think you'd be penalised for putting a residential building next to an industrial building, for want of a better term.
Yeah.
But I don't think you wouldn't gain anything from it either. So those buildings, when you place them, they're a passive gain across that particular scenario you're playing. No, the way you build up the money and the resources and stuff that you earn is to stack the buildings. Like you can see here, like you can see that building there where it's got blue, red, blue. That probably started as a 1x2 square block, and it's been stacked and stacked and stacked. So you can mix and match the colours as long as this building shape's the same. But you do get bonuses if you match.
I feel like people with OCD will freak the fuck out with this.
Yeah, they would with this.
The colour disparities and shit.
It is all wrong, but yeah. So as I said, it's an interesting premise what they've set up. I'm not too sure. I think it's going to be, as I said, if the game's got some modes that are maybe more relaxed than what I was playing earlier,
maybe more teachable,
sort of
tutorial.
It does come up with you do this and you get bonuses and stuff, but it doesn't really explain a strategy of how you get around some of the issues you've got. And sometimes you'll get a building that you think you should be able to place something on and you can't, and you don't know why. So you think...
fucking hate it when that happens.
Yeah, so whether it explains it, I just didn't sort of see it properly. But, like, for example, you can see... Like, you've got this one here, this single block.
Yep.
It might... You think I can place it on top of something that's at least X stories high, but I wouldn't be able to, I can't place it on top of that one because it has to be an exact match of the pattern below it. So there's some limitations I think it may be a little bit restrictive, or that might make it a little bit frustrating as to how it plays, but I am very interested in seeing how this comes out when it comes out in a couple of days' time. Well, by the time it's out.
Did you ever play SimCity 2000?
Oh, yeah, a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah. Do these pictures along the side, do they serve both as perks and sort of advisors, or is it just passive perks and that's it?
Just passive perks and that's it. They don't give you any advice at all. So, yeah, as I said, neat premise. I think it looks really neat. I like the look of it. But I would like to get into it more and just understand the mechanics in a deeper level rather than the short bit I played of it. But it was enough to me to get me interested to put on a wish list, so that was really neat.
Yeah.
As I said, I do like it. A lot of potential, I think. So yeah, it's definitely something one to look out for. My third game that as I said, is not on IGB. I've actually logged to put it on the IGB and put a bunch of stuff into it. It was a game off your wish list called Drive Loop.
Drive or Driftwood?
Drive Loop. Pretty sure it's on your Steam wish list.
Fuck. Drive
Loop, all one word.
Drive Loop, yeah. Yeah. What?
So there's a demo of this if you want.
Yeah.
There's a demo of this right now available on this game.
There is. I didn't realise that.
Yep. So this is a vampire survivor style game. One of those.
Yes, it is.
You are driving a vehicle. That's what this game is. So it's one of those. So not much more to say. So it's a pity it's not on IGB. It does look kind of neat. So not sure.
Screenshots look really good.
Not sure I'm going to necessarily play it myself when it comes out. This one that might be out is that the one that's out in February or out in April?
April, 9th of April.
That's why I was getting confused. I thought that was the one that was out.
Yeah.
In a couple of weeks, but that one's so that one's in April 10th, I think, from memory. So it's really neat. So it's one of those games. So you're driving along, it'll do all the shooting for you. As you're killing enemies, they drop effectively XP, for want of a better term. You pick that up. Once you level up, you get immediate upgrade option to either make it so you do more damage, reload quicker, that sort of stuff. Once you get, I don't know what level it was, maybe 5 or 6 levels in, you get reinforcements. Basically, then drive to where that reinforcements are dropped, and you can then pick up effectively a passenger. And that passenger has abilities of their own that basically means they can. So I picked up at one point. I had one where they liked explosives, so they did a lot of blast damage with their weapons, and that just does extra damage. But you can also, every level you get an option to pick up an upgrade of some sort, and it'll be like a protective aura or a damage aura around you, and you walk up and it just drives through and does things. The one thing I didn't find a lot of, and this might be what these games are, I don't play a lot of these sort of games, there was very little to no health pickups at all. In the game, the demo bits that I played. So I think one level up perk I got meant I was able to pick up health things, but other than that, I hadn't seen one at all. So I think that would be where I'd probably wear a bit thin for me. If there's no way to get your health back, I think you'd be very limited in what you could really do. But it's one of those games. Like, you've got waves enemies, they follow you everywhere you go. You've got upgrade abilities. You've got different types of enemies that come at you. I think at some point you're probably going to get I think it might have leveled. You had a timer ticking down as well. I think it started at 15 minutes.
That's the form. You survive for that period of time. And then either a boss comes out or that's it. Hey, you win.
You win, yeah. I suspect it'll be a boss based on some of the screenshots and videos I've seen of it. But yeah, I mean, I think it looked really neat. I found it a little bit hard to control the car because it was a top-down version of the driving. So I found it a bit hard that if I wanted to go left, wasn't really sometimes going right sort of thing, because I wasn't thinking of where I wasn't thinking how to control it sort of thing. So I think that might be a bit tricky.
Between camera and hand. Normally there's a setting for that.
Yeah, maybe there would be, and I have to see if there was. But yeah, again, one I'd be interested to see when it comes out what it's like, but probably not one I'd play on launch. But does look really neat. So they're the 3 I've played. So I've played those 4 games, and that's it. I've played 3 of those this morning for like an hour, like 20 minutes each, because I just wanted to see what was out there. Because there's a co-op. What are they calling it? Co-op Next Fest? Is that
Co-op Fest?
Co-op Fest, which obviously
Couch Co-op Fest or something.
Couch Co-op Fest. So some of these games I think are co-op. I think, which is why they've probably got demos out of them. But
there's also a Next Fest, like either next week or the week after.
Yeah, so they've got a lot of those. A lot of those things coming up. So, yeah.
Did you hit anything from the Idler Fest?
No, I didn't actually. No, I looked through them. Not a lot of those games really have that appeal for me anymore. So,
I did grab a couple. I had one running on my laptop most of the day at work. Sometimes it was just like this frog. He runs around, he cuts grass, and then he lays down after a while, and then he gets back up and cuts grass. So like you're putting grass or currency into the grow rate, into the quality of it, how much he cuts, his stamina, all that stuff. Yep. And I just sometimes just left it running most of the day. So I think it's we're there. Yeah, I've got 10.3 hours in it in the last 2 weeks. And it was literally just leaving it running.
Yep. But that's all I have played.
Word.
At some point I will get back to those games from Game of the Year that I didn't actually finish. No time. Nobody wants to die, Dragon Age, that kind of stuff. But I'm trying to find I think I'm basically going to get through, quote unquote, finish Satisfactory, which is or finish the current save of Satisfactory. Should be more precise. Take a break from that. Get to those other games. Maybe finish them all, or finish most of them. Then go back to Satisfactory. and basically start that again because I want to see what that's like to now play from the beginning now that 1.0 has been met. Because as I said many times, I've all played that over a long period of time. So to play that from the beginning would be just interesting to see what it's like to play from the beginning now because I haven't done that in a while. So
and get a bunch of achievements that you haven't got.
Get all the achievements I haven't got. So yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all I have to talk about from games perspective. Do you want to talk about the state of play that occurred? Do you want to look at that?
I do indeed.
All right, so give me a moment. I shall.
I was going to say, do you want to run that or do you want me to run that?
I'll run that for a bit. Let me just go and find it first.
Because when I was adding games this morning, I was like, oh fuck, need to put the state of play in, and then looked at the events. I'm like, that's a higher number than it used to. And then went in, I was like, oh, Graham added it.
Yep.
I went to add games for February for last week as well, and I'm like, oh wait, for as much as like February has a lot of big games, there's not many of them that I'm actually interested in, except for Avowed. Where are you at with that? Just while we're waiting, while you set that up, you have much interest in Avowed or not really?
Nah, not really. No.
Yeah.
Let's cut back to that.
Kaboom!
So it was a state of play on Wednesday, so a couple of days ago. As well.
Thursday morning our time.
Thursday morning at our time. There wasn't a lot that really appealed to me, if I'm honest. I skipped past most of these games. Obviously, Split Fiction I think is going to be interesting. I think we should. That might be a.
That's the Joseph Fares new one.
That's the next one from them.
Borderlands has a date.
Borderlands has a
of September.
Date. September. I think there's a date for Metal Gear Solid. Got a date as well.
Which actually leaked before because they accidentally put the date on the PlayStation Store.
Okay, fair enough.
Onimusha Way of the Sword looks really cool. A lot of this was basically just games getting dates and stuff like that. They're like Supermassive. I don't know if they'd revealed it before, but Directive 8020, which is further up the list, that's the next game from the Quarry people. The people behind the Quarry and the Tales of Maname Dun or the Tales of whatever. I can't remember the sort of FMV horror type things they do. Midnight Walkers has a very similar art style to South of Midnight. Stop motion clay type thing.
Yeah.
Hell is Us is the new Leslie Benzies. No, it's not. That's something else.
That's something else.
Yes, that's later.
Got to get a remaster on PC.
Who was asking for that?
That game's
That's weird.
That game is quite popular.
Is it?
Yeah, it is really quite popular. People who
I'm looking forward to this. Sorry.
I think people who it got shat on because I think it wasn't landed particularly well, but it's actually quite popular. What else was on?
The Liza P DLC is prequel stuff. And Stellar Blade's coming to PC with which is confirmed, and it's like June-ish, which I'm happy about. That's the new Ben's game.
That's the new Ben's game that you're thinking of.
Tides of Annihilation looked fucking cool as shit too. That looked great. I like the look of that. The new Shinobi.
And then there's a Day of the Diver expansion or DLC for linked into this one.
Like a Dragon.
Like a Dragon stuff.
There's two Dave the Diver DLCs coming now then, because there's that Ichiban one and there's a one where they go into the jungle or some shit.
Jungle, yeah, which I think is more substantive than this will be.
Yes.
It's relatively small. I think that DLC one the jungle one is a proper proper DLC, if that kind of makes sense.
Metal Eden I thought looked really cool as well. There was a lot of stuff I thought looked really, really rad and like could be really interesting. And like Sonic Racing Crossroads, I don't care. So there's a bit of a balance.
I think Mind's Eye does look interesting. Like
that looks cool.
Like before I sort of I didn't see the state of play. I didn't even know it was on until after it happened actually. But obviously saw the trailers come out afterwards. And I thought, oh shit, that looks interesting. That looks like GTA. And then realised, okay, it's from the guy that was on, which is great GTA. Oh, that's why. So it looks like GTA in the future. So I don't think it's going to have a lot of gameplay. Originality to it, but I think it looks visually it looks really quite impressive.
Yes. The funniest part almost about that is that the headlines of the former producer of GTA will put his GTA game out before GTA 6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like as with every single one of these events, whoever puts it out, if the games that they show appeal to you, then you'll think it's a good show. But that's what all this is about.
Yeah.
But
That Lost Records is, I think, possibly the new a new Annapurna.
okay.
Like sorry, no, it's the new Don't Nod.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. So
The new Annapurna was the one that had, I think, skating, and they timed to the song they had in the trailer.
okay.
And Blueprints is a first-person puzzle game.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Lost Soul Aside looked great. Bit further down.
Okay. Yep.
Yep, that looked fantastic. Saros could be cool, but it's basically Returnal, but seemingly a bit easier from what I've heard it described as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I thought there was some really cool looking stuff, and there was some also things in there where I'm like, eh. What's under Lost Soul Aside, or is that the bottom?
No, that's the last one.
Yep.
That's the last one. Yep.
Yep, there was some cool stuff there, and there was some stuff where I'm like, whatever. But like, Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be massive. I don't have a great interest in it, but it's going to be massive. I'm looking forward to Stellar Blade.
Mm.
There's quite a few. Warriors Abyss actually got a shadow drop.
Okay.
It was available today.
Okay. Yep.
But it's $35, and it's a Dynasty Warriors sort of Vampire Survivors almost mix.
Mm.
And they had Paul Heyman talk game about WWE 2K25.
What was that on those? I didn't. Was that?
I have no idea unless I don't remember seeing it. Unless it came up in a this is going to get PS5 Pro.
Oh, that's probably what it's for. Maybe
Stuff.
That's what it's for. Yeah.
Yep. I think Top Spin 2K25 did too.
Yeah. So that's the remaster of that original game. So what was the one up here again? So that was the.
There was one further down. I think it's a DLC. There, Broken Road.
Must be new DLC for the time with that remaster.
I don't remember seeing it on there, but I watched it, but I skipped through a lot of it. I didn't.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
No, as I said, there's some interesting stuff there for sure. Not sure how much of it I would actually get into, but yeah, it's.
And they talked about some stuff they're adding, which is why all Armored Core and Patapon 3 are on there for the classic games library on PlayStation Plus.
Okay. Yeah, it was. Yeah, makes sense. It was a state of play. So.
Yep.
Yeah, but so the next big one of those would probably be
Nintendo.
Nintendo maybe doing something around the Switch.
April 2? For the Switch 2.
Switch 2, I suspect. Yeah. Okay.
They're going to do a special Borderlands 4 state of play in a few months.
God, that's best of all.
Because apparently we need to know what Borderlands 4 is, like we didn't know what the first 4 games were.
I was just going to say that's a bit pointless, but okay.
Yep. I will say Borderlands 4 does look really quite good.
Yeah, it's a Borderlands.
It looks like it could be really fun, but every time I hear Randy Pitchford talk, I'm kind of like, oh, dog, shut up.
It's still a Borderlands game, so what exactly else is it going to be? So
yeah. It's going to have a really depth RPG mechanic, and it's turned into a turn-based XCOM-like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if they did that, I'd be interested. That'd be interesting.
Oh, I don't know, man. I'd go for a Borderlands 4 that's like... Borderlands 3, apparently, the writing was piss poor. If they make if they do a better job with the writing and don't try and go so memey on it, it could be cool. But we'll see.
Yeah.
You can never tell with a Gearbox game sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that'll probably wrap us up for regular segment, so let's jump into the beginning of the end. Why did that not play? Because it's broken. Alright, I'll do it the other way.
Man, that's a cool button broke.
So we have the usual, you'll probably have a Friday night fighting, no, not Friday night, I haven't done one of those in ages. Friday night hangout and a...
Friday night fun.
Friday night fun on your, is it Enemy Starship Twitch TV?
Yes, twitch.tv/Enemy Starship. There will be one this Friday. And then Saturday as well. I want to start playing Doom Eternal before Doom the Dark Ages comes out.
Yep.
Does that actually happen before Doom the Dark Ages comes out? Who can say? Fuck.
I'll probably have an episode of Solar Factory out this week, hopefully. And then next week, we will have. I think we should probably do some regular checkouts rather than back to Luma Island because that's not going anywhere. But we'll see if we can find some smallish games to do some checkouts on. Then we'll be back week after that for another podcast. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really just say at this point. Any must listens? Anything to recommendations?
The music releases of 2025 have been really quite strong. There's at least fucking 6 or 8 I could mention, so I'm not going to. But if people know, like, I think it's either Steve Francis or something, but I've had the links for Spotify playlists before. There's a lot of shit that's come out that's been good. Enterprise Earth, new stuff, Darko, Stick to Your Guns. There's been some really great stuff that's come out this year, and a lot of it. And there's a lot of stuff that this week in particular was volume-wise a lot of stuff I'm interested in. I just haven't touched yet. So I don't want to just go. So I might mention that on Friday Night Fun. It might be a thing where I go and start Friday Night Fun off with, here's my Spotify 2024 list. Here's my albums of last year. And here's the shit that's great this year so far, which I forgot to do last week because I'm smart.
All right. Until the next podcast in a couple of weeks' time, that'll be enough for now. Let's see if the music will work for the outro. See you, Steve.
Bye. Hey, it worked. That's one button that works.
One button that works. Excellent.
Fucking hate it when buttons don't work.